Okay, guys. That was a mighty fine breakfast, I got to tell you. What I want to talk to you about real quick was I wanted to talk a little bit about a belt axe or hatchet that's more common man that I think is pretty good product. And I think it's something that's a worthwhile investment if you're looking to buy a belt axe or a hatchet and you don't have the money to spend on something like, say, a Gransfors Brooks or a Wetterlings. Although there's not a whole lot of difference between a Wetterlings axe the size of this one and this axe, maybe $10. Again, I seek to find things that are made in the U.S. I seek to find good quality merchandise, especially the stuff that I put on my site. But unavoidably, you're going to have things from China. You just have to be very selective. I mean, almost every ferrocerium rod in the world is made in China. Most of the stainless steel containers are made in China. And you just have to kind of search out the best of the best to find the right one. You can't very well fly over to China to the factory, so you kind of have to bring samples over to the U.S. and check them out and see if they're what you want, and then order your bulk quantities. But understand that process costs money as well, because the companies in China overseas, they'll ship you stuff for free pretty much. They'll ship you a sample. But as soon as it hits the stateside address, whether that's LA or New York or wherever it comes into the United States, it automatically becomes a DHL overnight shipment, and most of those things cost $100. So you might order, a sample of a couple of ferro rods from a company in China, and they cost you $100 by the time you get them, just to even look at them and say, yeah, this is a good one, or no, this is a bad one. The same thing with stainless steel bottles. So there's a lot of expense incurred in what, R&D type stuff, research and development of products that put on a website. But this product right here is made in the U.S. This is the Estwing camp axe or camp hatchet. Okay, Boy Scouts of America used these for years. I had one of these when I was a kid, and I actually had forgotten all about them, to tell you the truth, because we get so caught up in things, like my Wetterlings Hunter's axe and, my Gransfors Brooks Forest axe and hand-forged axes and things like that you just forget about the cheap things that are out there. And I went and picked up an Estwing hatchet again, and this is the number one, just to kind of look it over again and kind of give it, a look from 30 years later to see if I still liked it. And I got to tell you, it's still a pretty good quality little axe, and it doesn't come sharp by any means, but I've got the tools to sharpen it with, no problem. It does have a leather stacked handle. It is all one piece of metal bolstered in the back. It says made in the USA right on it. You're not going to break this thing. You're not going to destroy it. So for the 30 or 35 bucks that this thing costs, you pretty much got a bulletproof hatchet for your pack. Now, how well this thing holds an edge, I can't tell you. I just got this one, and it's been years since I used one, so I really can't tell you how well it holds an edge, but I'm going to find out, because I'm going to put an edge on this one, and I'm going to use it for a while. I'm going to see how well it holds an edge and how well it does. It's got a pretty steep grind on it. I like that in an axe. It's got a nice belt shape on the head of the axe right here up toward the shoulders, so where it's going to split wood good. As I remember when I was a kid, I loved the thing. But there again, there's a big difference between being, in your late 40s and being in your, early teens. So what's good then might not be quite as good now. But I think for the money that this costs and the fact that it's made in the USA, it can't be a horrible investment for sure. So we're going to find out how she does. But I wanted to introduce that to you today. I've had a lot of questions about axes and would I do a review on different types of axes, and I'm going to do that for you. I've kind of been putting that off a little bit because I have something that's in research and development right now that I want to show you guys. I have a prototype of it, and I can't really show it to you until I have some to sell. That's kind of my father's policy on the website, is we don't release anything until we have them to sell or we have them in our hand. So I can't show it to you yet, but as soon as we get some stock in, I'll be doing a full review of different types of axes, from belt axes to forest axes, and we'll talk about that prototype as well as this one again. We'll see how she's held up, because it'll be, a couple of weeks at least anyway. And we'll look at some other brands of axes as well that maybe you don't think about that might be a good choice for you. And like I said, I'm always looking for common man gear, always looking for common man gear. So I think this is a pretty good little piece of common man gear. Like I said, 30 bucks I think I paid for this. You could probably pick one of these things up at a flea market or a yard sale, even cheaper than that. But I bought this one straight off of Amazon, and I had it shipped by Amazon. And usually they're a little bit higher than some of the other vendors are on Amazon. But generally I've found that when you buy things off Amazon.com, if you pay the extra couple bucks it costs to buy it direct from Amazon, you're always going to get it, and you're never going to wait. And that's kind of important to me, especially when I'm trying to do things like I do, where I'm doing constant product testing and things like that. If I've got to buy a product, I want to buy it somewhere where I know I'm going to get it right away. So I either call up my dad, I call up I get a hold of Amazon, or if it's one of my buddies like John McCann from Survival Resources, or Rob Simpson from Canteen Shop, or whether it's a Pathfinder School, or Tom Sega from Duluth Pack, or one of the other companies, John from Rail Riders. All I have to do is make a phone call, and that stuff's in the mail to me within 2 days, and I don't have to worry about it. And that's important to me, that suppliers meet my demands, because, like I said, I've got film schedules I have to meet. I've got things that I have to do. My intention was to live in this yurt, or live out of this yurt, for at least 30 days. I'm going to have to take off this weekend and drive to Indianapolis for a company meeting. I don't have a choice. So I'm going to have to abandon my nomadic lifestyle for a couple of days and go to Indianapolis and stay at my parents' house and have a congregation meeting, if that's what you want to call it, of the minds of the Pathfinder School. I tell you, once you've sharpened a few axes and hatches and things like that, you can pretty much tell by the way the file feels, by the way the diamond rod feels against the metal, whether you've got a decent one or not. And at this point, I'd have to say this has probably got some pretty decent metal used in it. I didn't do the research to find out exactly what kind of metal they're using in this thing, but I can feel by the way this file runs across it that it's not real soft. It's definitely getting a razor edge on it now. I don't think I'm going to be too disappointed in that. I mean, that's just a good, solid, cheap, common man camp tool. Well, once I get my file work done, then I'm going to go to the diamond rod. Like I said, that's pretty much the only two tools I carry for sharpening are a Lansky's diamond rod like this one, and a Baco fine and medium file. And I can pretty much take care of anything I need to take care of, from my axes to my knives, with that in pretty short fashion. Now, what I will do with this to protect it, because it's non-coated, and I prefer my tools to be non-coated for purposes we've talked about in many videos. I want to be able to, if I've got a piece of high carbon steel, I want to be able to strike sparks off of it with a rock if I have to in an emergency. It just makes that tool more multi-purpose, multifunctional. And if I take care of this kind of stuff, it's not going to rust. So the last thing I'm going to do, I'm sure this thing came with some oil on it, but the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tallow out of this grease lamp, and I'm going to oil this thing down real good and oil the sheath down real good before I put it in there. But I'll tell you what, that's a pretty dandy little axe so far. Like I said, I haven't done a lot of chopping with it or anything yet, but we're going to put it in our belt and we're going to find out. Testing product is what it's all about. Trial and error, learning new things, a new spin on an old product. Like I said, I don't think there's too many Boy Scouts in the U.S. that probably didn't have one of these S-Wing axes in their backpack when they were 12 or 13 years old. And even though I wasn't a Boy Scout, I had one too. And so I'm going to try it out now and see if it's as good now as it was then. Just like the 21st Century Long Hunter series, it doesn't have to be from the 18th century to find out if it's still as good as it was then. I appreciate you guys joining me for this video segment, and I appreciate you guys' support. I appreciate your views. Harvey the Bucket thanks you for his name, and I'll see you on the next video.